Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and today I'm going to teach you guys about tarts. If you guys didn't already know, we are in the middle of citrus season right now. So you're gonna see plenty of perfectly ripe and perfectly sourced limes and oranges and lemons of all kinds. It's one of my favorite times of year. I love everything citrus. So today I'm gonna teach you guys how to make mini orange tartlets. I'm a giant fan of citrus. I'm gonna get a giant orange tattooed on my back one day, probably. This video is gonna be split up into 3 parts. First, we're gonna talk about the shell or the short crust pastry. Then we're gonna talk about the filling, in this case, an orange curd, and then we're gonna talk about the topping or the garnish. And today I'm gonna teach you guys how to make an Italian meringue for the top. It's gonna be so delicious. We're gonna set it on fire. It's gonna be amazing. If you're interested in learning how to make orange tarts, or you just wanna hang out with me for a little bit, that's fine. Just stick around. So first, I'm gonna talk to you guys about the shell and short crust pastry. So this is an American short crust. Basically, it's like a sugar cookie dough, but there's no leavening agents in it. There's no baking powder or baking soda or anything like that. So when it bakes off, it gives you this really nice, tender, crumbly shell. And it's a little sweet with the sugar and it's very rich with the butter, so it's perfect for a tartlet shell. This is just the recipe that I always used like in school and stuff like that. So I'm gonna leave the recipes for everything, the shell, the filling, and the toppings all in the description below, or I'll probably link them on my blog too, but at the very least, they will be in the description box as well. One thing I am gonna say about the recipes, I always, I scale my ingredients, so everything is in grams, and if you don't do that, for baking you should. You don't have to, but it's more accurate, and it's faster and it's easier, but I know that not everybody has a scale, so I did go ahead and convert everything into like cups and tablespoons and stuff like that too. So both of those are gonna be down in the description for you. So this dough has been chilling in my refrigerator for like half an hour almost, you really want to do that because you really want the butter to stay cold and not melt while you're rolling it out. And while I stand here and roll this out into a nice big disc, I am going to show you guys how I made it. So you're going to want to go ahead and scale your butter and your sugar into the bowl of a stand mixer or into a bowl where you can use a hand mixer. You can do this by hand if you want. I wouldn't recommend it, but do whatever you want. So with a paddle, you're going to cream together the butter and the sugar on a medium-high speed. This is going to feel like it's going for a while, and it will take maybe 10 to 15 minutes, but you really want to make sure that everything is completely combined, completely soft, completely emulsified. It's going to be pale and fluffy and soft when it's finished, so make sure you just keep scraping down and keep mixing, and like I said, it's going to feel like it's taking a while. This is the consistency you're looking for. Like I said, light and fluffy. This took me about 15 minutes. Go ahead and add your egg and give that a good mix too. It's gonna mix for a while also. It might look a little separated or split for a bit, but if you keep mixing, it will come together eventually, I promise. So go ahead and add your flour in. You can add it in all at once and mix it on a low-medium speed until it's all combined into one dough. And then I went ahead and just plopped it all on some plastic wrap and formed it into like a disc so that rolling it out would be easier. And then go ahead and wrap it in the plastic wrap and pop it in the fridge. I left mine in the fridge for about an hour or two. You really want it cold and firm. Now, hopefully all of that made sense. If you have any questions, just let me know. Now, when you're rolling it out, it's super important to keep turning it while you're rolling it. So I put a couple of passes through, and then I rotate it 90 degrees, and then I put another couple of passes through. It helps to ensure that it's all even. It also helps to ensure that it's not sticking to your surface. So constantly moving it before it gets a chance to really suction means that once you are completely rolled out into the size and shape that you need it to be, then it's not, the butter hasn't completely like stuck. Otherwise it'll just like fall apart when you punch everything out, and it's just like really irritating, and like you don't want to go through that. Another way to make sure that it stays even is to not roll out as much as I'm doing at one time, but you know. All right, so you're gonna want this like decently thin. I would say between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch thick, because it's, you know, it's gonna end up tiny. You don't want like a mouthful of the crust. You want there to be room still for the filling once you put that in. Otherwise, it'll just, there's no room. And now it's time to put them into the tart rings. So these are perforated just tart rings. You can use these. Yep, that happened. It's fine. Just gonna mush it back together. You can use tart rings. They don't have to be perforated. These just are. You can use tartlet shells. They have like a bottom on them. They have sometimes a fluted edge. You can pretty much use whatever you want. Jesus Christ. You can pretty much use whatever you want for this. I got these off Amazon. I can leave the link down below if you would like to use what I'm using right now. But if you already have some, or you can get these at like Michael's, I think. You get them on Amazon. So to prep the rings, you're gonna wanna put them on a lined sheet tray that I have here, and then you're gonna wanna spray them down with some baking spray. They probably won't stick, but like, do you really wanna mess with it? No. As far as cutting out the circles, you're gonna want a ring cutter that's around 1 inch larger than your rings all the way around. Unless you're like me and can't do basic geometry, you don't want them the same size. This cutter, if you'll notice, is the exact same size as this. So basically this is gonna cover the bottom but not the sides. So it's not a huge deal. You can just freehand cut them, and it doesn't have to be perfect around the edges either, because we're gonna fix that later, but you do want it at least like 1 inch or 2 bigger, because you want it to come up to the sides and hang over your ring. So we're gonna freehand cut them today. So I'm gonna use my cutter to cut about, I don't know, 1 inch or so around. Apparently I'm not good at shapes, but that will work. Put some flour on the bottom here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to gently lay the dough into the ring. Try not to tear it if you can avoid it. If there are a couple of like little holes in there, it's not a huge deal. We can definitely fix those. You just don't want this whole thing to be completely cracked and torn and ruined or whatever, because then at that point you might as well just start it over. But there's a crack or a tear or two or whatever, it's not a huge deal. We can definitely patch that up. It's honestly easier to push the dough past the ring, like further out this way. So if you push the dough past the ring outwards like this, and then just kind of like squish it down, it forces the dough outwards and it completely fills up the ring. So now we have a completely flat, full ring. I'm gonna go ahead and do all 5 of these, and I'll come back in a second. And with this last one, I will say, if you have any cracks or any holes or anything, it's all right. It's not a huge deal. Just take a piece of like leftover dough, like just like a little piece of scrap dough, and just kind of squish it in, like patch it up. I'm not even kidding. The great thing about these little guys is that they literally do not have to look perfect at all, because you're gonna be covering the entire thing up. So just so long as the bottoms and like the outsides look good, the inside can look like dog shit and no one's gonna know. Pushing it through to the bottom and then squishing it down. And then using my rolling pin to cut the tops off here to get a nice even flush thingy. Some holes right here, so I'm just gonna take a little piece of dough and patch that up. So yeah, we've got our nice cute little finished shells. The bottom is pretty much completely covered. We have very few gaps on the outside right here. So I am going to stick these in the fridge to chill for just a couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna clean up here and check back in, and we'll throw them in the oven. I hate that I just did that finger gun thing. I hate that so much. Hello, welcome back. So these have been chilling in the fridge for like 15 to 20 minutes. They're small, so they don't take that long to set, but you do want them to be firm when you put them in the oven. Otherwise, all of the butter will just melt and leak out instantly once you throw them in. So we're gonna blind bake these right now. We're not baking the curd that's going inside. It's already pre-cooked, so the shells have to be baked before you put the curd in, essentially. When you blind bake them, you're gonna have to dock the bottoms, prick them either with a knife or the fork or whatever, and then we're gonna fill them with baking beans. Both of these ensure that the shells don't puff up or get too big or too brown or anything. They'll bake evenly, and there will still be room in there for curd once it's all said and done. So I'm just gonna stab at them a few times with a fork. You really don't need that many holes. I'm like 4 or 5 times with a fork, maybe max, but just try and make it so that they're all evenly dispersed. And then I also have 5 pieces of parchment paper that I crinkled up just so that they fit in there a lot better. And I'm gonna put these in all 5 of them and then fill them almost to the top with baking beans. These are my baking beans. They're just pinto beans. Yeah. You can use the ceramic baking beans if you want, and I have those too. It's just like there's literally no point in buying those. These work just fine. You can use this, or you can use rice. I've used rice before to blind bake pie and tartlet shells. Just want to try and make sure it's not like a huge chunky bean, which sounds weird. You don't want it to be too chunky because then it won't fit in all the little nooks and crannies of your tartlet. I'm just saying. So these are my pinto beans, and we are going to we're gonna line it really well, and then we're gonna put enough beans in there just so that it pretty much goes to the top. Press it so that it really gets everywhere. And that's all it takes, you know? And the nice thing about using beans like this or rice or whatever is that it's like you can use it more than once. I've had these beans for like a year now, and they bake and then they cool, and then I put them right back in my container. So these are all set. They're gonna go into the oven at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes, just to set the shells, just the top, it'll dry out a little bit. And then we're gonna pull them out, take the beans and the parchment out of the rings and put them back in the oven for another 10 minutes or so to get that really nice golden brown color. And then we're gonna let them cool, pop them out, and in the meantime, we will make the curd. All right, so these are pretty much out, these are out of the oven. They're pretty much cool now. I went ahead and popped them out of the rings. And I wanted to show you a couple of things that you could do to kind of clean up the look a little bit. These do have the little holes, like the little bumps on the side, because these are perforated, and those brush away for the most part. If you have something like this where it's straight for the most part, but there's a couple of little bumps or little like jaggedy edges or anything like that, it could have happened, you know, when I was rolling off the top. It could have happened when I was pressing it in. It could have happened when I was putting the beans in for the blind bake and I was pressing the parchment in. That's super easy to fix. So you're gonna want a microplane, or like one of these fine, this is a microplane. I literally don't know what else this is called. I call it a microplane. I think that's a brand name. I have no clue. You need one of these thingies. And when I say, guys, I say gently, I mean so gently. You do not need a lot of pressure to do this whatsoever. And if you like press on it too hard, you're gonna break the shell. We're gonna take the one that had just like a little bit of a jagged edge on top, and ever so lightly, we're just gonna shave the top, just kind of flat, just like you're grating cheese, you know? and it will give you a nice even edge. Obviously, you don't want to cut too much off the top because then you're not going to have anything left. You'll just get like a nice flat edge. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the outsides of all of these and put them on a new tray, and then I will meet you guys over at the stove and we'll make the curd to fill these with. Hello, welcome to my humble stovetop. So we are going to be making the orange curd now. So to start, again, all of the measurements are going to be in the description below. So I have some sugar. This is the cornstarch. Gonna give that a good mix, just so that it's all combined and there's no weird cornstarch lumps. Now I'm going to be adding some orange juice. This is freshly squeezed orange juice that I put through a strainer to get out all of like the pulp and the seeds and everything like that. Obviously you can use like store-bought orange juice, and you're gonna have oranges so that you can get the zest for the oranges. So you might as well just use freshly squeezed orange juice. But again, it works either way. So we're gonna combine all of this really, really well. Cook it on like a medium-high heat until it starts to bubble and boil. So this one is thickened with cornstarch and eggs. So I have some egg yolks in a bowl over here, and we're gonna be tempering the hot liquid into the egg yolks, because otherwise you risk cooking the eggs and you're just gonna have scrambled eggs in your orange curd, and that's obviously disgusting. So right now we're cooking it, bringing it to a boil so that we can cook out the cornstarch flavor and like the cornstarch like nastiness and chalkiness, and then we are going to temper it into the egg yolks, and I will show you how that goes. So this is at a boil, and I'm gonna let it boil for like a minute or two. It's already getting a lot thicker. And once it is at a really nice rolling boil, it's gone a little translucent because we're cooking out the cornstarch. Stream this in very slowly so as not to cook the egg yolks. Now all of this curd is gonna go back into the pot once we have all of the yolks mixed in. And we're gonna put it back on the heat, like a medium-low heat, just for a couple of minutes. Continuously stir it. All right, now here I have a bowl with my butter in it and a strainer on top. We're going to pop the curd in here over the strainer, and we're just going to press this over top the butter. This is gonna get out any, if there's any like egg chunks in here or anything like that, any, you know, clumps of sugar or anything unpleasant, anything that's going to keep this curd from being smooth and silky and delicious is going to be trapped in this strainer. See, so like there's little egg proteins and stuff in here that, you know, when I was separating the yolks out, that got caught in there or whatever. So now the butter is in here, and I'm just gonna keep stirring this to fully melt the butter and fully get that incorporated. So now we have a really nice, really silky orange curd that will be perfect for our tarts. So you can totally let this completely cool and then just pipe it into the shells, but I'm gonna go ahead and just pour this into the shells and throw those in the fridge to set. They'll sit in there for probably about half an hour or until they're mostly firm to the touch or completely set. And I will check back in and we can make the meringue together and then top and finish these tarts. All right, so we are back over at my stove to make the Italian meringue. There are 3 different types of meringue that are super commonly used in desserts like this. There is the French or common meringue, the Swiss meringue, and the Italian meringue. The Italian meringue is the most difficult to make, but it's also the most stable. And also, like, you can eat it just as is because it has cooked egg whites in it. It is, like I said, the most difficult, and I decided to do that for these tarts. because I hate myself apparently. You are going to need a stand mixer for this, your sugar and your water in a small little saucepan like this. And you are going to need a candy thermometer or a food safe thermometer of some kind. You can use one of those big metal ones. This is the one that I have. So you know those egg yolks that we used in the curd? I'm sure you're probably wondering, what do I do with the whites? This is something that you can do with the whites. The curd uses 6 egg yolks, and this recipe of meringue uses 5 egg whites. Or if you want to use carton egg whites, you can do that too. But like I said, we're already cracking the eggs open for the yolks. You might as well just use the whites for this too. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on over to voiceover Amanda, because with this meringue, you kind of have to be able to just like move and do it and get it done very quickly. So I'm not gonna be able to just like kind of stand here and leisurely tell you what's going on. We are almost done with these tarts, guys, I promise. We have 2 of the 3 components done. Without further ado, let's finish them up. With your sugar and your water on your stovetop on a medium to medium-high temperature, go ahead and get your egg whites moving on a very low speed, just to get them frothing and get them ready to whip when you actually need them to. Once the sugar starts boiling, keep an eye on the temperature. At 225 degrees, move the mixer up to a medium speed to get the egg whites to start whipping. Once you hit 230 to 235 degrees, move the mixer speed all the way up as high as it can go to really get the egg whites ready. You're looking for medium to medium stiff peaks before the sugar is even ready. Your sugar is ready at a temperature of 245 degrees. It's usable still at 250, but really don't let it get past that point. If anything, you want your egg whites ready before your sugar is ready, because you can always lower the speed of the mixer. Once both criteria are met, you have medium to medium stiff egg whites and your sugar is at the proper temperature. Slowly stream the cooked sugar between the whisk and the bowl of the mixer while the mixer is running. You really don't want this cooked sugar splashing back at you. It is obviously extremely hot and you could burn yourself, so please do this with caution. Keep the mixer on a high speed and continue to whip the egg whites. You're looking for not only the meringue to cool off slightly, but you're looking for them to fully reach stiff peaks and with a nice glossy finish. If you're not sure if your egg whites are ready, go ahead and take them out and check. You can always just turn the mixer back on if they're not there yet, but you're looking for stiff peaks and something where when you turn the bowl over, the meringue doesn't all just topple out. All right, folks, we've made the short crust. We've made the orange curd. We've made the Italian meringue. If you made it this far, honest to God, I'm so proud of you. We're all gonna put it all together now. We're gonna garnish it and we're gonna be done with these things. You could be done with this. You could be done like this. You could eat these, serve these, they're beautiful, they're delicious. You could be finished with them. I also have, this is some candied orange peel that I had from a project I worked on last week. So these would be like a really cool garnish too, if you just wanna put them on top like this. That would be really pretty. But now we're here, it's all about the aesthetics. It's all about the pictures. It's all about making it worth it. What we're gonna do is we are going to put the Italian meringue on top of the tarts. You can do this in a couple of different ways. You can pipe this on if you want. I've seen people do like the spikes. You can, like a cupcake, pipe it on. I'm going to put it on with 2 spoons and kind of just like jab at it because I like the rustic look. Is that me being lazy? No. So we're just gonna take a big scoop of the Italian meringue and just kind of drop it on top. There is gonna be more meringue than you need in the bowl, but I find that doing it in smaller batches just makes it actually more difficult. The sugar gets really hot really fast because there's less of it in your pan. It gets hard to get the egg whites in your mixer because there's not that many of them, so it's hard to get them whipped up right. So just go ham, honest to God, like go crazy. All right, so I am pretty happy with how spiky these are and how rustic they are. I think they're beautiful. And again, you could stop right here. You could leave this as it is. However, we've already come this far. You might as well go all the way. This is a blowtorch. I think legally I have to say that if you are not of age to be operating a blowtorch, don't do this. But if you don't have a blowtorch, or you're not of age to use a blowtorch, or you're not comfortable using a blowtorch, you can pop these under the broiler in your oven for like a couple of minutes. Honestly, I would pop your broiler on high, put these in the oven with the door open so that you can keep an eye on them, and then just kind of watch as they caramelize. But I just like the blowtorch. So the reason why these are on a metal sheet with no parchment is for obvious reasons. You don't want to blowtorch anything on parchment paper. It will catch fire. That has happened to me. I'm telling you guys, don't do it. You will burn yourself, you'll burn the parchment paper, and you'll burn the goods that you are trying to torch in the first place. So, just lightly touching the sides. Don't afraid to let it catch fire for a moment. It won't catch for very long. All right. Look at these babies. I'm gonna go get a prettier plate. And with that, guys, we did it. We made cute little beautiful orange dream tartlets. If you actually followed along and made them with me, I am so proud of you. I don't even have to have seen them to know that you did an amazing job. And it's the nice thing about this recipe too is that you can make literally any part of this so much easier for yourself. If you don't have time or the faculties to make the tart shells, just buy them pre-made. They make them pre-made and pre-baked. There you go, you already got it. If you want to fill them with anything else, like a cheesecake filling or something else, do that. So easy. You don't even have to put the Italian meringue on top if you don't want to. Like I said, they're beautiful without it. If you make these or any version of these, please tag me. Please let me know. I will be so stoked to see them. So leave a comment and let me know if there is anything in particular that you would like to learn how to make. I can see if I can try and make that happen. I would love some suggestions if there's anything you're dying to do. I look forward to sharing with you guys and cooking with you guys and baking with you guys and just hanging out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you again soon. And just in case you somehow missed it, these are mini orange meringue tartlets as made by Amanda. I guess I maybe should try it so you guys know if it's like worth making or not. That shit's so good. Oh my God. That's fuck. We're good.